In 1870 in Cleveland, Ohio, a 31-year-old man quietly controlled about 4% of America's oil refining capacity. At the time, it didn't seem remarkable. It didn't feel threatening. It didn't look like the beginning of anything world-changing. But it was. By 1880, that same man controlled 90% of America's oil refining. By 1904, he controlled 91% of oil production, 85% of final sales, and something far more enduring than oil itself. He had created a system. His name was John D. Rockefeller. This is the past of financial, where money, power, and history intersect. And in finance, very little is ever as simple as it looks. Most people are taught that Rockefeller's story ended in 1911, when Standard Oil was broken up by the U.S. Supreme Court. That belief is comforting. It suggests that the system corrected itself, that power was restrained, but that's not what happened. What was dismantled was a company. What survived was the method. And that method didn't disappear. It evolved, it spread, it embedded itself into law, finance, medicine, technology, and daily life. In 2025, you are still living inside the world Rockefeller designed. The gasoline you pump into your car, the medicine prescribed to you, the platforms you use to communicate, the food supply you depend on, the banks that hold your debt. All of them operate using the same underlying logic: vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, regulatory capture, tax-exempt philanthropy that shapes policy, market dominance so complete that competition becomes theoretical. Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire. He built the architecture of modern corporate control. And you can't escape it because the system was never Standard Oil. The system is the method. And that method has been copied for more than 150 years. Amazon follows it, Google follows it, Pfizer follows it, JP Morgan follows it. Different industries, different eras, the same blueprint. Control the supply chain from beginning to end. Eliminate competitors across the market. Influence the regulators meant to stop you. Use philanthropy to purchase legitimacy. And when the government finally intervenes, make sure the pieces you still control are worth more than the whole ever was. Rockefeller understood something most people never do. Power doesn't need to be loud. It needs to be structural. To understand how the system was born, you have to understand the man. John Davidson Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, in Richford, New York. His father was a traveling con man who sold fake cancer cures. His mother was a deeply religious Baptist, strict, disciplined, and absolutely convinced of moral righteousness. From his father, Rockefeller learned ruthlessness. From his mother, he learned certainty. This combination shaped everything he did. He destroyed competitors without mercy, while genuinely believing that God had chosen him to bring order to chaotic industries. This wasn't hypocrisy, it was conviction. To Rockefeller, monopoly was not evil. Monopoly was moral. It replaced waste with efficiency, chaos with order. In 1859, oil was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania. An oil rush followed. Thousands flooded into western Pennsylvania. Fortunes were made overnight and lost just as quickly. Overproduction crashed prices. Shortages sent them soaring again. It was unstable, unpredictable, dangerous. Rockefeller, then 20 years old and working as a bookkeeper in Cleveland, saw opportunity, but not where everyone else was looking. Drilling was gambling, refining was control. Turning crude oil into kerosene for lamps. That was where stability lived. In 1863, Rockefeller invested $4,000 in his first oil refinery. Within 2 years, it became the largest refinery in Cleveland. But Cleveland had 30 refineries. Competition was brutal. Margins were thin. Most operated on the edge of bankruptcy. This is where Rockefeller's real strategy emerged. He didn't compete. He eliminated. The foundation of his approach was vertical integration. Most refiners controlled one step of the process. Rockefeller wanted all of them. He bought barrel factories so he wouldn't depend on suppliers. He acquired tank cars and negotiated railroad access. He built warehouses, distribution networks, and sales channels. Every step that once produced profit for someone else was pulled inward. This gave him massive cost advantages. While competitors paid 25 cents per barrel, Rockefeller produced his own for 15. While competitors paid railroads, Rockefeller received secret rebates. Railroads charged his competitors more and paid him to ship. This wasn't just efficiency, it was predation. Rockefeller could sell kerosene below his competitors' costs and still make money. And he did. In 1870, he formed the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. His capacity grew rapidly, but controlling 4% of the market wasn't enough. So he began phase two, horizontal integration. In 1872, Rockefeller initiated what became known as the Cleveland Massacre. Over 3 months, he approached every refinery owner in the city. He offered to buy them out at fair value. Those who accepted were often kept on as managers. Those who refused were crushed. Rockefeller launched price wars, selling below cost until competitors bled cash. Their choice was simple: sell or die. Most sold. All who resisted failed. By the end of 1872, Rockefeller controlled 25 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. The blueprint was clear: buy if possible, destroy if necessary, absorb what remains. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. But Rockefeller knew monopolies faced two problems. They are illegal and they are hated. His solution was the trust. In 1882, Rockefeller's lawyers created the Standard Oil Trust. It wasn't a company. It was a holding structure, a legal entity that owned stock in dozens of companies across states. 41 shareholders, Rockefeller and his inner circle, controlled everything. This structure became the ancestor of the modern corporation. By 1904, Standard Oil controlled 91% of refining and 85% of final sales. Rockefeller was worth nearly $900 million, over $25 billion today. At his peak, his inflation-adjusted wealth reached an estimated $400 billion. Then came the backlash. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil broken into 34 companies. The public celebrated. Rockefeller did not protest. He owned shares in all 34. The breakup tripled his wealth. Those companies, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Amoco, BP, eventually merged back together. The monopoly didn't die, it reassembled. But Rockefeller's greatest legacy wasn't oil. It was the system, the holding company, the regulatory capture, the philanthropic foundation. In 1913, he created the Rockefeller Foundation. Publicly, it funded medicine, education, and public health. Structurally, it avoided taxes, shaped research priorities, and purchased legitimacy. Modern medicine, pharmaceutical dominance, and billionaire philanthropy all follow this model. Every major billionaire today uses it. Rockefeller died in 1937. But systems don't die. They persist. They adapt. They become invisible. And once you understand how it works, you start seeing it everywhere. Not because it's hidden, but because it was designed to feel normal.